My man! Welcome to the show. How are you? Really excited as a parent and as a person of color to have our guest today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, guys, what's up? It's Irfan. I'm really excited to have my guest, Logan Gelzer, founder and CEO of Logo Media, which helps companies with Shopify, among other things. But Shopify is sort of an area of expertise. He's grown Logo Media at a blistering pace over the past year and a half. Logan, welcome to the show. And I've got a ton of questions for you, so I hope you came prepared.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. The minute that I heard that you're a Shopify expert, guru, as I like to call you, I was really excited to ask you a lot of questions. And here's why. At Roosterly, we get a lot of folks, new entrepreneurs, new business owners that start a store about something they're passionate about. It could be clothing, it could be vitamin supplements, it could be any number of things. And I can hear the passion in their voice, okay? And I can also hear maybe some misguidance that they've had from whatever video they saw on YouTube that led them to go down this path, and their expectations are often mismatched with reality. They think, hey, I'm going to open a Shopify store. I'm going to be a millionaire in 6 months, and it's just going to go crazy. I'm going to get all this great things happening. And then I ask them questions like, oh, okay, great. I'm excited to help you out with your social media, but tell me what's happening from a traffic and conversion standpoint. What are you doing to really get conversions? And that's where the logic in the conversation sometimes goes downhill. There's just not a very clear understanding of, wait a minute, I just thought when I create a Shopify store, people just start buying. And then I've got to be the bearer of bad news and say, hey, you know what? It just really doesn't work like that in life or in Shopify. So let's start first with your journey and how you started working with Shopify. When did you get into even digital marketing and the online space and development?
Yeah, so I first got into e-commerce probably about 10 years ago. I've always been a technical person and very technology and fascinated by technology. I was taking classes back as early as middle school, learning graphic design, video production, and anything else I could kind of get my hands on. So I kind of first started my journey actually working on the sales and customer service side for an e-commerce business. However, it wasn't quite, I guess, how I look at e-commerce today. And it was very manual, a lot of the processes that the company went through. But it was also a very small company. It was only a total of 3 people, including myself. And I was actually quickly promoted into more of an operations role from that sales and customer service, to where, I had to kind of come up with a business plan. How could we, improve sales? What can we do to improve the operations of the company? It was an online training business. So everything was done, through the sales process was very manual. Getting them access to the course was manual. There was no direction in the course. So a lot of it was me spending time on the phone talking to the students, most of the day. And I felt like it was a poor use of my time. We want to be growing and increasing the sales, not spending time on customer service and support. So that's when I basically implemented WooCommerce, which is, of course, an e-commerce platform based more for WordPress websites. This was several years ago. So Shopify was a platform, but it was very small compared to what it is today. And a lot of the automations that I was able to put in place freed up a lot of that customer service time. Customers were getting and students were getting immediate access to the course. So from there, I went and I moved on to work for an e-commerce agency based here in Miami, where I'm at. And that's where I really gained a lot more knowledge and expertise working in e-commerce, because I would work with merchants of all kinds of different verticals. I would say 5 to 10% of the projects that I worked on were corporate sites, but everything else was either Shopify, WordPress, and then I was also spearheading bringing on BigCommerce as a platform. So I learned a ton really quickly, and I'd always been fascinated with building websites. So at the time, I was also, taking courses on the side, learning how to do development. I was a very hands-on project manager, to where, I'd help out a designer tweaking a design or a developer tweaking some code to get the project across the finish line. So just kept kind of sharpening the skills there. And then I decided to go work directly with a brand, working as an e-commerce project manager. So 50% of my responsibilities were e-commerce strategy based responsibilities, like how can we improve conversion? What features can we add to the website to improve the customer experience? How can we lower our abandonment rates? And then once we had a plan of action, I would help out a little bit with design along with the marketing team. And then once we had development needs, that was all on me to implement. So when the pandemic hit, I had started freelancing on the side as a means to generate some extra income. And the freelance business essentially took off. So I ended up leaving the brand that I was working for and, went full-time freelancing. And it grew so quickly that it turned into what Logo Media is today. We have a team about 8, including myself. So most of the early on hires were developers based onshore and offshore to help out with the fulfillment needs. And then I would do all the customer service, the sales, and the marketing for the business. And then just this year, I've started to expand the front end operations to get help with project management, QA, and all of that. And soon enough, we'll bring on some sales folks as well to help, continue growing this business as well.
Congratulations. That's quite a journey. What do you feel are the most common misconceptions about Shopify from the standpoint of somebody who maybe watches a few YouTube videos and gets excited and they sign up with you, or do you not even take on those clients? Maybe we start with what is sort of your sweet spot in terms of the types of clients that you like to work with?
Yeah, I would say, I work with clients of all types. So I'm not super picky like you may find with some other companies. But predominantly, most of the good clients that I work with on a continuous basis are typically established brands that are generating, at least $100,000 a month and above. Not to say that we don't work with clients that are below that, but that seems to kind of be the sweet spot. A lot of what we do is centered around storefront optimization, right? So just like, if you have a brick and mortar retail store, you need to continue, merchandising the store is an ongoing process where you set up your displays and everything. It's the same concept with your website, but in the digital realm. So what we try to focus on is building trust and credibility because it's more of a digital experience and they don't get to pick up the products and, touch them, feel them like you would in a brick and mortar store. So how can we make the experience of the website as close to that while building that trust and credibility throughout the user journey so that they convert and become a customer? And hopefully, they become a repeat customer as well. So a lot of the metrics that we focus on are going to be conversion rate, average order value, lifetime value of the customer, and then how can we decrease and lower things like bounce rates and abandonment rates throughout the sales funnel.
Brilliant. So I want to hone in on one of the things that you mentioned because it's a conversation that I get into a lot, and that is building trust and credibility. Now, what I say to folks that are launching a website or some kind of a store, fashion, clothing brand, et cetera, whatever it happens to be, is I don't feel like they put enough thought into what someone is experiencing when they visit their website who's never heard of them before. I mean, I understand if it's your friends and family, they know that person, so sure, they'll buy something from the website, or they'll probably just call them up like, hey, can you send me a few of these? But, when you talk about, let's take that information and set it aside for a second. When I buy something from Adidas or the Nike app or clothing styles, and I'm like, look, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but these people that are going to be coming to your website, even if we do search engine optimization or run Google ads or social media ads, you're going to be wasting every dime of that money because the expectation that someone who has never heard of you before will just come to your website and be like, yeah, I'll take 2. But let me just go through the process and buy. That the whole purpose is to tread on that person's credibility right, that they've established with the community at large to say, hey, this is a legit brand. I wear their clothing, buy from this website. Now, for a brand that doesn't have all those things going for it, to have that expectation that somebody's going to visit your website, they're going to find something they like, they're going to put it in the checkout, they're going to maybe add a few more things and then check out. And that is a lot to ask. So just, can you talk me through what you say to people when it comes to building trust and credibility? How does that process work? What do you do on a website that doesn't have a big budget to build that, to build conversion? I know that's a lot to throw at you.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something we can focus on, right? The biggest thing that I tell my clients that are just starting out in this business, whether they're a drop shipping business or whether they're manufacturing their own products, you want to focus on high level photography and storytelling. The other piece of it is that's really important. And actually, I've been talking with and working on a project for another client right now. They sell kind of an adult style game, and most of their sales right now are on Amazon. So we're in the process of completing a conversion rate or a storefront optimization audit that's been done. And one of the pieces is that we want to implement is reviews, right? And this is one of the things that I think is a low hanging fruit. Even if you don't have the budget for high level photography, reviews is an essential piece to help build trust and credibility, because through reviews, you can also get user generated content, whether it's Yacht or Kendo or Stamped, which are a couple of the review apps that we like to use. They all have a plan that allow customers to upload photos and videos. So even if it's like, you don't have a super huge following on Instagram and people aren't tagging you left and right with your products, you can still get and feature user generated content through the review platform. This is easily displayable on your website. So when somebody's evaluating you and you have a brand that's not known yet, this is the perfect way to help build trust and credibility with a lower cost of investment in it. The second piece I would say is high level photography. Some of the best brands that I work with, the strengths of their website, even though that they are somewhat well-known brands, but they're not the Nikes and the Adidas where you see the logo and you automatically know who they feature. High level photography. So it's going to be a combination of good product photography, showing details on the products, whether it's, if we're talking fashion, stitching and things like that, along with the benefits of, the product that they have. And then they have a high level mixture of lifestyle photography. So this way you can see how the product's used in normal social setting or something of that sort. So those are the areas that I would really focus on. And then additional areas to build trust and credibility. A lot of people get press opportunities early on, whether it's, something like Shark Tank or even just an article on Forbes or MSNBC or something like that. That's additional trust and credibility signals that can be included in the website to really bring to notoriety and to make the customers feel like, okay, I want to buy this brand.
Super helpful. Thanks so much for walking through that so articulately and so concisely. I hope that resonates with people. That brings me to my next challenge. Oftentimes I'll get somebody on the phone or on a Zoom call. It's like they know that I write for Forbes magazine, right? And they also know that I can get placements in USA Today or other publications, Inc., and a slew of publications that we work with to get some earned media, PR, things like that. And they're like, hey, how much does this cost? And I'm like, well, typically an article, we've got a retainer that runs anywhere from $4,500 a month to about $8,500 a month, which guarantees placement. And they're just like, oh my goodness, no way. And then so the follow-up question that I ask is, well, what should something like that cost? What should having national media attention for you and your brand cost? And they're like, well, I'm willing to put up $100. And I'm like, well, look, life just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. So how do you respond to folks that just have a giant mismatch between what expectations they should have for what amount of money?
Yeah, that's a tough question because it's all perception, right? So where they may feel, oh, it's not going to take them long to write an article, the value is in, well, this article is going to be shown and by or potentially seen by thousands and thousands of people. So I get this question, I think, a lot, and there's definitely a lot of misconception around like the amount of marketing that you need to, basically put into your business. And, essentially the way that I try to look at them is like, all right, for every $100 that you put into your business, expect to get as close to 5 times that back. So if you put in $100, you're looking to try to get $500 back. So at the end of the day, the more money that you put in your business for marketing, the more return on your investment that you're going to get out of it. And obviously, I think five times return on investment is a little conservative, because there's definitely brands doing way past that. But that's essentially like the goal and the benchmark that you want to go to. So I guess the question becomes, how much do you want the revenue of your company to be? Because if you're only going to spend $100, you're probably only going to make $500. You put $1,000, you're looking at making $5,000. So, the question then becomes for them, how much, do you want to make for your business, more or less?
Got it. Makes a ton of sense. So you've clearly demonstrated the ability to grow not only your own business, but clients' businesses. What are some of your biggest, worries, I guess, as a business owner that you think other people might have, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing that keeps me up at night, probably keeps every other business owner up at night, is making sure that you have continuous business coming in. We're more of a service-based business, so maybe you want to make sure that you continue to stay profitable. Whereas in my line of business, like, it's very easy to be a profitable business, being more service-based, because essentially, we get paid when we work. When we're not working, we don't get paid. And that's essentially goes for like the entire team, including myself. So the big thing that kind of keeps me up at night is, making sure we have, clients to serve on a continuous basis.
Yep. Okay. And how do you ensure that?
That's a great question. I think just expanding all resources. We source leads through a couple different channels. So if one channel's starting to dry up or we're not having as much success, constantly looking over the data. We're a very data-oriented person, or oriented company, both for ourselves and for our clients, because the data tells a story at the end of the day. And so, when we see numbers dropping, we want to assess like, what's the reason for it? Obviously, a lot of people have this kind of doom and gloom outlook over the next year, 2 years with the economy, with everything that's been going on. Like, the stocks are down from all-time highs. But I would say I'm not as concerned about that, because in this space, in e-commerce, new people are entering e-commerce every single day, and they need help optimizing their stores. And I think rather than what a lot of other companies do to try to just pour more money into ads or something to send more traffic, they'd be better served by optimizing their store, trying to make a better user experience, trying to enhance ways for the traffic that they are spending a ton of money already to try to convert more of them.
Brilliant. I totally agree. Do you think that that's a common error with folks? They don't necessarily pay attention to data as closely as they should?
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, for a lot of the solopreneurs and the guys that are just starting out, first time in business, it's something that they overlook constantly, because, they get all excited to start a store, but they really don't know the effort that goes into it. E-commerce is essentially, just like running any other type of retail business. Rather than having a physical storefront, maybe your cost of overhead is a little bit lower because you're not paying rent on space. And there are different, obviously, tactics in terms of marketing, but ultimately you still need warehousing for your inventory to be able to ship that out. You still need, to pay whatever your fees are for your platform or your website to, for people to be able to come to and view and transact on your website. You still have marketing costs to be able to drive people traffic and get them in the door. Not to mention you have customer service, your digital marketing. So, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the drop shipping model too, which I'm not saying drop shipping is bad or anything like that, but I think it's a good way to start and test product ideas. But eventually you want to move away from the drop shipping model. So you want to purchase your products wholesale. You want to either bring your shipping in-house or work with a 3PL provider that's going to ship and get the items fast, because most of the drop shippers are still sourcing their products from China. So it's not going to really be sustainable, because the way e-commerce is trending right now, you have Amazon, which has 1 day and 2 day shipping, and a lot of the other platforms are following suit with that. Shopify as well. They have a fulfillment center network where, kind of like the Amazon FBA model, you can ship your products to them and they'll do the fulfillment for you. So there obviously are costs that come to that. And drop shipping is a great way to start a business, test out a product idea, but eventually you want to move your model towards being a real business. And that's what's really going to help you grow and scale. I watch a lot of Shark Tank, being an entrepreneur. And obviously, the questions that the sharks are going to ask you is like, your cost of goods, your profit margins, and drop shipping really eats into a lot of that. Whereas, and even if you want to grow your product line, and you have you're doing products, and you've got off that drop ship model, you can still go back and drop ship a couple of products to test the market and see how the market's going to react before you do go forward with that full investment. But ultimately, you have to consider the full supply chain, if you will, of an e-commerce business to really be successful at it.
Super helpful. And that stings a little bit what you said, because when you said you want to transition away from drop shipping and make it a real business. And I know that you didn't mean to offend anybody, and I hope nobody gets offended by you saying that. I certainly understand what you mean, because two things about drop shipping. Several years ago, when it was much easier to generate a profit, right? Because not everybody was doing it. Now, there's trends on TikTok that are like, hey, this product is really cool. And all of a sudden, everyone goes and tries to do a drop shipping business around that product. Now, the problem is that these are 1, 2, 3 week, maybe a couple of month trends. That's not a sustainable business model, right? Number one, to sort of try and hop on these trends. Number two is, at the end of the day, it's really an arbitrage model. You're sourcing a product, and you're essentially, at the end of the day, a marketer. You're spending X amount of dollars on marketing, trying to sell something and make a little bit of money on the spread, and you're holding no inventory. And so that's the beauty is, hey, I've got no inventory. I'm just getting some traffic and flipping it over and selling this. But in today's day and age, right, when you've got everyone, so often folks that are very sophisticated, that have the advantages of scale, right? Being able to buy hundreds of thousands of an item and reduce their cost of goods sold. It's really challenging for somebody who doesn't have those economies of scale to buy something in a small quantity and somehow expect to make anything meaningful on it, right? Like, if you're doing all that work and at the end of the month you got $30, like, not so sure if it's worth the time, effort, and energy. And it seems like you would agree with that. It's great to test out products and, maybe get a proof of concept, but it's not the way to scale a real business, right?
Exactly. And I guess maybe instead of real business, what I mean is real brand. I think with the drop shipping models, it's just like you said, you're following the trend, like what's hottest right now. And so a lot of times what I see is these companies are having to quickly rebrand for the product, the differentiation in products that they're selling, to whatever's hot right now. If it's, like a women's hair curling iron, for example, 1 week, and then it's a kid's toy the next week, you have to completely rebrand your store. That's time, effort, and energy that you're spending in addition to all of the continuous product research that you have to do. Whereas what you want to do is you want to have find a proof of concept with a product or a set of products, and you want to grow the product line. So you have to be forward thinking in terms of, okay, I have these 3 main products right now that I'm looking to test, and ultimately you're also looking to solve a problem, right? That's where you're going to be most successful, rather than continuing to follow the hottest product that's selling right now. That's a good guide, but it also needs to be sustainable, so that you can then grow into more of that brand, because ultimately you have brand loyalists and you want to create a community of brand loyalists to your brand. That's why these companies that are not the Adidas and Nikes, but they're still big D2C brands that are doing millions of dollars, they've created that community. They've created that branding, and they're growing their product line based on the niche that they're in, whether it be children's products, whether it be kitchen and cookware or whatnot. And then they're really focusing more on the brand and the brand offering as opposed to the hottest products on the market right now.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. You seem like somebody who, in the conversations that I've had with you, you seem to be purpose driven, right? You never come across as somebody who's greedy or who's just trying to promote techniques to generate conversions in some shady way. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, how do you incorporate purpose into your work? I know you've got, a family, and it's interesting when we go from being just a single guy to having what we expect from our livelihood and our legacy and things like that sort of take on a different meaning. I remember when I was 22, I just, mostly just wanted to make a buck. That's not necessarily true. I sort of had like this bleeding heart philosophy of giving back, which is not always healthy, but I digress. Share with me a little bit about how you incorporate purpose into what you do and what sort of your greater mission or vision is.
Yeah, I would say it really goes back to my childhood. I grew up in a family where we didn't have, we had money, but we didn't have a lot of money. I was the middle child, so I was always getting hand-me-downs and getting told no when I wanted to do stuff a lot. Although the important things to me, my parents always, tried their best to give me, which I always appreciated. But ever since I was a little kid, I've always had big dreams, big goals. I wanted to play football and play in the NFL. Athletically, I wasn't as gifted as some of the others, but I would also say that I probably didn't work as hard as I needed to make the goal happen. And I really learned that, the work ethic aspect kind of right after high school when I got into college. I kind of fell flat on my face my first semester and failed a bunch of classes. So it was a big wake up call. And I had some other things kind of happen personally that just really lit a fire underneath me and just said, hey, Logan, you've always wanted to be successful. You wanted to own your own business, since I was a little kid. Like, go make it happen. You have to work harder than everybody else. You have to be relentless in your effort to outwork everybody. And if that, so kind of going forward, I was going to school full time. I was working full time. So we're talking 80 to 100 hours, weeks worth of energy and effort in terms of learning and working. And I did that for a good couple of years. And then once I finally got my degree, I was working 2 full-time jobs. I would have, when I first moved down here to Miami, I was working in restaurants because the pay down here at some of the high-end restaurants was really good. And I wanted to live kind of that higher level Miami lifestyle, of course, kind of coming down here. And I would say looking back, that was probably a mistake because it probably held me back a little bit and it put more financial stress on me than what I really needed to. But ultimately, I'm not a person to live life on regrets. And ultimately, it put that pressure on me to really perform at a higher level and force me to kind of go harder. And a wife and a daughter and a baby on the way. Purpose means a whole lot more to me. Not only do I want to continue growing my business and even get into other businesses and see how far I can take that, but I also, want to, my children to learn the value of hard work that I wasn't able to learn, and also afford them the opportunities to get everything that they want in life where I had kind of limited opportunities, but not at the expense of making them kind of spoiled and rotten in that sense. I want what they want in life too. And then hopefully, it's the case that they want to be involved in at least one of these kind of business opportunities that I have going on, and they're able to take it over and continue to build for, their children and then their children. And then, we have basically a generational wealth established and more or less so that, a lot of the things that I felt like held me back in my childhood won't happen for any of my family moving forward.
What a great father. So thoughtful in such a great way. I mean, I think your children are lucky to have you as a dad. So that's good. You might want to, probably don't need to remind them. Just to make it sure they know that. All right. So, we've got the new year around the corner. what are some of the big goals for Logo Media going into the new year?
Yeah, one of the biggest goals for us is to, continue growing. Obviously, that's always going to be a goal, but we really want to hone in on this concept of headless commerce. And with
Explain what that means.
Shopify, yeah. So headless commerce, basically, you have a whole front end, which your front end is your website, is your customer facing. It's all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that the UI and the UX experience that customers get when they visit your website. And then your backend is all of the processes, the databases, and everything that happen behind the scenes. And so Shopify is a hosted platform. So the front end and the back end are basically married together. You log in, you go to your Shopify website, boom, you have your customer experience. You log into your Shopify backend, you have your backend experience where you add your apps and your additional functionalities. All of your product and collection data lives, your order data, your customer data, and all of that's then also connected to your theme in Shopify. And that's essentially kind of keeping everything coupled together through one platform. So headless is basically taking that front end experience and moving it and detaching it from the back end experience. So what we end up doing is connecting the front end to the back end through API, which is basically application programming interface, to where we're passing data back. And essentially, this allows us to take that entire front end. We can put it on any server anywhere we want. This gives us the ability to increase performance, have more control over things like your server architecture, but also custom features to where you're not having to continuously install Shopify apps, which are ultimately going to decrease the performance on your website. And you have more control over all of your SEO architecture as well. So most commonly, before Shopify kind of came out with their Hydrogen, which is a React-based framework that will help speed along the development. And it has a lot of the API integration already kind of set up out of the box for you. But you still need to integrate like a content management. We like and use a couple different ones. Sanity.io is a new one. Shopify is actually invested with them. Builder.io is a visual CMS, but also has a page building component to it. So it offers probably the most flexibility of CMSs out there. And then you also have Contentful, which is a big one. So typically the stack previously was building like a Next.js app. This is going to help with your SEO. Page speed is an aspect of SEO, but you can also control all of the technical SEO a lot better, as well as the URL structures, which seems to be a pretty important component from a lot of the SEO specialists that I talk to, which is a limitation that you have with Shopify. 2023, and then as always, just staying on top of the latest, trends that are going on in e-commerce. Last year we saw a couple different, I think, cool features like the try before you buy, kind of coming to some D2C, and we'll probably look to see that expand as well. Another place I'm interested to see expand is like marketplaces. With respect to Shopify, they have their shop app now, right? And shop pay. Ultimately, they're starting to turn it into a marketplace, almost like an Amazon, if you will, so that, you can go on the shop app and I can shop for, brand A, but now I can also see products and offerings from brand C, D, E. So there's this capability from, cross-brand selling through that channel, which, obviously if you don't have to spend all of your time and effort trying to drive traffic through, Google ads, social media ads, and all of these other channels, if you're able to kind of get a little bit of exposure through like a marketplace, like with Amazon, for example.
Phenomenal. A lot of information to digest. Are there any sort of basic requirements to get involved with headless commerce? So
headless commerce is going to be like, right now is very developer dependent. So you're going to want either, like if you're doing it in-house, you're going to want somebody that's super knowledgeable in the JavaScript frameworks like Vue or React. React seems to be the most popular being used right now. And that's also what, if you're building on Shopify, I would recommend using Hydrogen, which is a React framework that Shopify has created for headless builds. And they also have a product called Oxygen, which is essentially the hosting component for that. So that will help maximize the performance. Maintenance is going to be not as much content-based maintenance, but when it's time to integrate a new app or feature that you want into your website, it's not going to be where you can just go to the Shopify App Store, click a button, install, set up the configuration, and boom, it's working. You're going to need a developer to help you out, which does have its advantages because whatever they're building, they can optimize to keep, the speed and performance of at the highest level.
Wow. Okay. So as you look on the next 2 to 3 years, what do you see as the standard in terms of emerging trends? What do you see as sort of the ones that are really going to make and break, if that's even a fair term to use, the success of e-commerce stores?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of a couple components. What I've noticed is low code and no code tools are becoming more and more popular. And what I mean by that is more for page building experiences. So if you're on Shopify, you may be familiar with Shogun, which has been a page builder that's been around for quite a while, several years. Most recently, Builder.io, who we partnered with, has come out with their app that I think has been out for 2 years. And they actually have kind of two products, the Shopify app as well as their visual CMS. So the editing experience is very similar. But the advantage is if you're on a hosted Shopify plan, you can start off on the Shopify app. And then if you decide to go headless down the road, you can migrate all those pages and all those components that you built in your Builder app over to the headless version as well. But there's also Replo, which is brand new to the space. They've come on really strong with their marketing, and they're partnering with a lot of big companies in the Shopify ecosystem. And their app is actually super cool because their editing experience is more along the lines of Figma. So your designer can basically come in to Replo and build out the landing page and be able to kind of deploy and execute it. They still have, I think, some challenges that there are in a product roadmap to kind of catch up to the Shoguns and the builders of the Shopify ecosystem. But low code and no code tools for page building are becoming more popular, and that's even in the headless builds as well. And then the other trends that we're looking out for and really starting to see come on strong are a lot of the AR features and functionalities and 3D product modeling. So just continuing to increase the user experience to make digital experiences as close to retail in-store experiences as possible. So I think that's an area that we'll continue to see evolve as well over the coming years. And I think there was one more, but it just slipped my mind.
We can always hop on another podcast. So first off, thanks for all of those insights. You're clearly very knowledgeable in this space. What is the best way if somebody wants to reach out to you? How do they get involved? What kind of budgets should they have? Give me a sense of, if somebody watches this podcast and says, gosh, that's the guy I want, helping me out in this, new business I'm launching. Are you not really looking for new business owners? You're more, like you said earlier, looking for somebody who's at least generating $100K a month in revenue?
No, I mean, we're definitely open to all business types, even new businesses. One of our good clients, Kudos, is a startup diaper brand that we started working with them after the agency that built their site finished. We kind of took over at that point and have been continuously optimizing their store. And we started with them about 2 years ago when they just first started. They are well funded, so that is one thing that we do want long-term partnerships, whether it's somebody starting out and needs a brand new store built, or somebody that's already in business. Because everything that we do, we focus on is going to be custom. So custom designs, custom development. And this sort of stuff takes time, both from a thought and strategy perspective, but also the labor to carry out the fulfillment, creating the design and tweaking and optimizing it to make the best possible, but also with implement feedback and comments from our clients. And then, of course, the development side as well, to make sure that we're building something that's performant, but also can be, aspects of it can be managed from the admin, from the client. So they don't need to be as reliant for us on small changes to an application or an experience. But typically, most of our projects start around the $5,000 mark. The lowest that we'll probably do is about $1,000. And then, we're reasonably priced. We only charge about $135 an hour. So we can even set up retainers, 10 hours kind of being our minimum, going up to, as much as you need. We have, multiple developers on staff. So if it's even an operation where you need more than 40 hours a week, we can, definitely resource multiple members of the team to, speed up the process as much as anybody wants.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that insight as well.
The best way, you could visit our website. It's just going to be https://logo.media. Our email's on there. It's info@logo.media. Phone number is available, and then there's even a contact form. You can also even book a call directly on the website too. So we could set up, we offer free strategy sessions for about a half an hour. So whether you either already have a store and you just want a couple of tips to, if you're just starting out and you need a couple of tips to kind of point you in the right direction, we're happy to kind of jump on a call and chat with you there. And then hopefully, it's a case to where we can end up in a more long-term partnership and really help you grow.
What a great way to not only qualify clients, but for potential clients to get a sense of just how you're positioning yourself out there in the community as a resource to others. So Logan, thanks so much. Guys, go check out Logan and Logo Media. Thanks so much for being on the show, Logan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. Appreciate your time, and thanks for having me.